بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. My brother and sister, it so happened that I'm out here in Ashley Reservoir, as you can see, one of our most favorite places to walk in, and I have Maulana Omar with me, and he mentioned a book that talks about the wealth of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the author seems to claim that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, unlike whatever we have heard and read about him, Wasallam, that he was a very wealthy person, and it's just that he was very generous, and so the wealth didn't stay with him and he gave it all away. Now his generosity, of course, is beyond question, we know that. The question is, was he wealthy or not? And this book this person has written, so one has to read that. I don't want to comment on that, but the point I want to say here is the importance of our attitudes, which for the most part get formed and colored very unobtrusively, very insidiously, and in a very unremarkable manner, but they guide and become the filters through which we view the world. Wealth is one of them, which is that today we come from a world and a culture which absolutely worships wealth in every sense of the term. We worship wealth, we worship the wealthy. The wealthy are our role models, irrespective of how they, forget about being Muslim or not Muslim, even non-Muslims. They are our role models, irrespective of how they earn that wealth, whether they earn the wealth in ethical ways or unethical ways. I'm not using the terminology of halal and haram, because somebody might say, well, they're not Muslims. So I'm saying ethical and unethical, which is applicable across the world. We don't ask any of the questions. We just say, well, who are the role models, so and so. I always remember this, half amusingly, where one day in our masjid here, I was giving a halaqah for our youth. So we had a whole house full of young people, and obviously almost every single one of them came from practicing families, most of them from people whose parents come to the masjid at least once a day, sometimes more than once a day. These young people, at least the boys, because I see them, many of them come at least once a day. So, mashallah, good kids, good youngsters. And my question to them, I said, name for me 3 of your role models. This is the reason I described all this in such detail was because to give you the background. So this is a meeting, a gathering in the masjid. The question is asked by the imam, 2 people who are practicing Muslims. So I said, name for me 3 role models. Guess who they named? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett. 3 role models. Now, so I said, well, I appreciate your honesty. I mean, you're not trying to fool anybody. So you didn't say Abu Bakr and Omar and Uthman radiallahu anhum. You said who your real role models are. But my question is, now you need to do the next step, which is you question and say, why are these people role models? If you take Elon Musk, for example, take SpaceX, right? Take Tesla, take anything that he is associated with, because he has this aura of being somebody who is into high technology. ask yourself one question, which is, did he invent any of those things? And the answer is no. So you are in awe of him for what? So you are in awe of him for the fact that here is a businessman who takes something which somebody has invented, converted that into a revenue generating model, and became humongously wealthy. I agree that that's also a skill, and there is you don't need to be an inventor to become wealthy. You need to be someone who is smart in a business sense, who can take an invention from somewhere and convert it into a revenue model. So nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that. But the point I'm making is, therefore, when you say that you respect him for his technology, that's a lie. You respect him for his wealth. If the same Elon Musk was not sitting on that pile of money, what would you say? I'll take it a step further and say Elon Musk's personal life, Jeff Bezos' personal life, in terms of their fidelity, in terms of their, Elon Musk does not have an issue of fidelity because he has no wives, formally married anyway. But with Jeff Bezos, we have that. What do you say about somebody who, because of being caught in an adulterous relationship, ends up losing a huge chunk of his wealth? Is that a sign of somebody clever that you want to follow? Or is it a sign of somebody who does not even have business sense? Right? Who can't even keep it hidden. So what are you respecting? But this is our trend, that we respect money. It doesn't matter where the money comes from. As long as there is money, we have respect. So I seriously want you to think about this and say, what is my attitude? And take that, say my attitude towards wealth, for example, or my attitude towards knowledge. What is my attitude towards knowledge? Which kind of knowledge do I feel has more value? Now, of course, the standard Sunday school answer, like I call these Sunday school answers. The standard Sunday school answer is the Quran. Highest level of value for knowledge. Great. Then the next question would be, if that is the case, when you go and listen to a person who is making tafsir of Quran, do you ask the question, what is this person's connection with the Quran? At a very basic level, does this person know the Arabic language? Has this person read the Quran? Can this person read the Quran correctly, which is tajweed, which in the Islamic education system, a primary school student should be able to read the Quran correctly with tajweed. So if somebody says he reads tajweed as if it's a great feather in the cap, it's not. All that means that he went to kindergarten, or a little bit more than that. Say maybe somebody who's a kid who's about 4 or 5 years old. 6 years old, 7 years old, right? So, but we have our standard of what amounts to an Islamic education has plummeted and dropped to such a level that even the smallest thing seems to be something, oh, mashallah, such a great alim, Bahrul Ulum. And what did he do? He was able to say one hadith in Arabic, and just without the sanad or anything, just the wording. And we say, mashallah, mashallah. No, what are you mashallaing? So the thing is, the standards drop. So now my point is, when you're talking about question of knowledge, which is the most important? Whereas if someone gives a lecture I remember many years ago, in the 70s, in Hyderabad, we have something called the Administrative Staff College of India. So the Administrative Staff College of India had invited at that time a man who was the oil minister of Saudi Arabia. This was around the time when the Saudis and the others, the OPEC countries, made an oil embargo, which literally shook the world. And at that time it was Malik Faisal, who was the king of Saudi Arabia at that time. So this oil minister, he was very famous. He came. Now, ASCII Administrative Staff College of India had a lecture, and he spoke about, the oil economy, the dollar, the oil dollar, and so forth. Now, in that, the place was jam-packed completely, absolutely packed. In that crowd, so I also went. My father had gone, so he took me along. I was in college at the time. So in that audience, I'm looking at people, and because I know the place, I know the people, I'm asking myself, how many people here even understand what this man is saying? Because he's talking finance. He's talking high finance, he's talking global finance, he's talking finance in terms of, countries and so on. He's not talking about your pocket money or your bank account. So how many people even understand what he's saying? And how many people here, my question to myself was, how many people here came because he flew in on his own jet? He didn't fly Saudi Arabia business class or first class. He flew in on his own plane. How many people here are because this is the oil minister of Saudi Arabia? It is the aura of money. It's the aura of wealth which attracts. So we have to ask ourselves this question and say, what are these auras that are influencing my perception of life in general, and especially my perception of Islam and my perception of things connected with Islam, Islamic scholars, Islamic knowledge itself, and so on. What is the value of that? A very graphic example is ask yourself and ask whoever is involved in our masajid, illa mashallah, generally speaking, what is the value, what is the izzah, what is the waqar, what is the prestige of the imam, right? There are any number of masajid where the imam is a servant. I won't even say a glorified servant. He is a servant of the board members, and even the board members, he is not an equal servant of all. He is the servant of the wealthy board members. I know of instances where, quite literally, in a board meeting, the imam is told, go get some tea, go get some coffee, or something like that, literally treating him as a servant. And yet, the same people have no shame to stand behind this imam and pray their salah. I don't even know whether such a salah is valid, because one of the requirements, I'm not saying this requirement in terms of the fiqh, fard and sunnah, but one of the requirements that you pray behind somebody is that you respect that person. If I have no respect for somebody, zero, then on what basis do I make him my imam, even if it is an imam for 2 rakat of salah? But this is how we have reduced the value and the waqar and the position of the ilm of this religion and the ulum al-sharia. So my closing point is to myself and you, let us examine our attitudes and ask ourselves that when I have an attitude towards something, what is really driving it? Especially with regard to religion and so on. What is really driving it? So for example, I was saying about this book, about the title of it, The Wealth of Rasulullah. So before I even go and read the book, I was asking myself this question and say, what is my attitude towards wealth? If somebody, within quotes, finds evidence that Rasulullah had more wealth than Sulaiman alayhi salam, iconically wealthy among the prophets, if somebody proves and finds evidence that Rasulullah had more wealth than Sulaiman alayhi salam, would my respect and love for the Rasulullah would it increase? And if somebody proves, and this is what at least our sources show us, that he did not have wealth, and then again, before I put in qualified as saying not because he could not earn it and blah blah blah, because all that is also indicative of an attitude. So if he did not have wealth, his dua, oh Allah, resurrect me with the masakin. The hadith where he said that the fuqara, the poor people will go into Jannah 500 years before the wealthy people. And that does not mean that the wealthy will go to Jahannam. No. With the Ashara Mubashara, the hadith where he gave glad tidings of Jannah to the 10 people. One of them was Abdurrahman ibn Auf, radiallahu anhu. And when he gave him the glad tidings, he said to him, I almost thought that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not going to give you this. Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu started weeping. He said, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? Why did you say that? He said, because that is how long it took for you to give hisab for your wealth. Now, Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu, his wealth, even the thought that he is giving hisab because he earned it unlawfully is, that thought would be completely devoid of any fact and it would be haram. So here is a person whose wealth is halal of the halal. Yet, the Nabi alayhi salatu saying, it took so long for you to give hisab. Which shows us that wealth, halal wealth is what you give hisab for. Haram wealth is the fuel of the fire in which that person who earns it, illa mashallah, unless Allah forgives, will burn. So, examine attitudes. Ask yourself, what am I trying to, which filter, what color glasses am I looking at this with? You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the dua of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Allah, show us the truth of the truth. So the truth behind things. So we recognize it as true and follow that, and show us the evil behind the batil, behind the evil, so that we stay away from it, and help us to stay away from it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.